Have you ever heard of a drone that drops down from the ceiling and patrols a property for security purposes? Well, today we are talking with Ben Kallas of Indoor Robotics, and you will not want to miss it. Welcome to the Titan Protection Show. Welcome to the Titan Protection Show. I am Ryan Smith with Titan Protection, and here with us today is Ben Kallas. And Ben is the Senior Director of Sales for North America for a company called Indoor Robotics. And Ben, we are excited to have you today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on. It's since I've gotten to know you guys quite a bit, I think there's a lot of wonderful synergies between our organizations, and these kind of opportunities that we get to evangelize what we're doing with our solution. We can never pass up.
I agree. And yes, the technology and the remote guarding and this kind of aspect of using technology and blending it with people and certainly in the physical security space is kind of our bread and butter. So yeah, have enjoyed working with your company and getting to know more about indoor robotics. And for those out there that are unaware of indoor robotics, do you mind just giving us kind of a overview of the company and the products and services, and even a little bit about your background would be great.
Absolutely. I'll start with myself. Just get that out of the way. I've been in the electronics side of the security industry for about 15 years, and I've worked for a couple different manufacturers. Excuse me. One of which was a startup that did intrusion video verification, and then ultimately I spent about a little over a decade with a very large video surveillance manufacturer, managing a pretty good sized region in North America. And then I've worked for a couple of the larger scale integration companies. Got a lot of experience and knowledge out of that, but all of it prepared me to join Indoor Robotics and help build out the team for North America. And before all that, I actually started my security career in the military and did some interesting things along those lines. But everything's kind of rounded out to put myself in a position to be able to help this organization evangelize what they're doing in the marketplace, and that's introducing a solution that ultimately allows for autonomous indoor drones to be able to patrol different areas and push video up to a cloud-based piece of software that we can analyze that video and pull out different analytics and attributes that people care about in their environments that give them information to use to either respond to different environments, clean up spills, clear out blocked entrances, all kinds of different things. So, at the end of the day, we are a tech startup, and we built a cloud-based piece of software that has drone hardware that works in conjunction with it in order to deliver visual information to customers for all kinds of different purposes.
Great. Yeah, no, it's an exciting product, and yes, and you've been in the industry for a while, and mainly on the hardware side, but
Yeah.
the drone thing particularly, is interesting to me, but also kind of how you all are doing it, very unique. I mean, a lot of the challenges that we find in the physical security space is we need a means to charge the drone autonomously. If a person has to swap batteries or charge it, it kind of defeats the autonomy of the system.
Mhm.
And then you run into some beyond visual line of sight issues or regulations with the FAA, being that you operate in an indoor environment, that is not applicable. So you've kind of got that piece taken care of where the drone can patrol indoors. Talk to us a little bit about how the system works itself, how it charges, what the dock looks like, and how it does some of its patrols around
Sure.
a property.
Absolutely. So it's a little bit different and interesting than the outdoor environments by all means. We do operate indoors, and the reason we choose to do the indoors is regulation and requirements don't really exist in the context they do for the outdoors. And frankly, the founders of the organization about 6, 7 years ago took a look at the robotic space in the industry and said, you know what? There's terrestrial devices out there that people are promoting and coming to the market with, but nobody's doing this with a drone. Why can't we do the same thing with a drone? So what they developed was a software package that allowed for the fleet management of these different pieces of hardware. And within that fleet management, it's anything from putting together pre-programmed missions that have patrol routes that the drones take out and they go do, or ad hoc missions so we can actually point and click on a pre-programmed map to have a drone respond to a particular area for a particular reason. And then the devices, the way that the bridge-based software, the cloud-based software works is it actually can work in conjunction with existing electronic security systems that might already be in place for response, verification, things of that nature. So there's a lot of versatility that comes into play with what we can do with these pieces of hardware on the indoor environment that may not be even viable on the outdoor side of it. Our overall hardware, as we said, is autonomous. Like when you're looking at deploying one of our solutions, there's two things you need on site. You need power, basically 110 connection, and then Wi-Fi. So the drone itself acts as its own bridge, if you will, to the internet via that Wi-Fi. And then our docking tiles for one of our models actually will connect to the ceiling, and then we use rare earth magnets in the actual drone to connect to that docking tile where it will charge itself in between its different patrols that it's programmed to go out and do. We also partner with a third party company that we've integrated their hardware into the software platform, which is really at the end of the day, the goal for organization is to keep integrating more and more indoor robotic options for people to bring into this, so you can have multiple pieces of hardware all in one piece of software doing all the tasks that people need them to do. And then even with that one, it has its own docking station as well that acts as the charging point. So after these drones are done doing their patrols, doing their missions, whatever we're requesting them to do, they go back to those points, they charge up, and they just wait for more work.
And that's a magnetic. It's a really slick interface because the ceiling tile, you replace the ceiling tile with the magnet,
Mm-hmm.
and then the drone will magnetically attach to it. And when it deploys, it drops from the magnet, flies around, does its thing, and then comes back to the dock. And correct me if I'm wrong, but while it's sitting in the dock, you also have the sensors on the drone itself that continue to act as a surveillance camera or a sensor while it's charged there. Am I correct on that?
100%. Yeah. So the tandem model actually has a 180-degree field of view camera in the front, one in the rear, that basically gives us a 360-degree field of view from that device. And the way I look at it I look at it as a multi-sensor camera. So it's not like a fisheye where you can go down, de-warp, and do anything like that, but you have sensor front, sensor back. And one of the nice things about the overall solution is we can feed the video from that device via OnVIF to about any VMS that's out there. We do have a more robust integration with Milestone, so we can actually share some analytic data there as well. But while that drone is docked, it can act as a accent to an overall existing surveillance system. So it's not just for use of streaming the video only when it's flying, but it can also share information with you while it's sitting there just waiting for its next mission or request to go do something different.
And it can, with that integration with other devices too, another device can trigger it to say, whether that be another camera, a motion sensor, something saying, I've got activity here, and the drone can then be deployed automatically to investigate that.
That is correct. Absolutely. Yeah. So we have the ability to use either webhooks, API commands, or even dry contacts in conjunction with our system and other systems. So we've had instances where we have end using customers that have actually had to go and have their intrusion panel turn off passive infrared sensors within an environment for when we do our patrols, because
Mm,
like any PIR, I mean, like any kind of small heat signature can set one off.
right.
So, that was actually something we kind of learned the hard way, but we're able to do within that system. And then when we get back and are done with the patrol, we get that system active again. And if that PIR goes off, then the drone can patrol to that geographic area where that intrusion sensor is and give you verification of what it is that triggered it. You might have an open door, you might have somebody that's in there, or you might have a Mylar balloon floating around, and we just showed you that's what it is. So
Right. Right. The video verification piece that can
it's
be
quite
big.
easy.
And I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but this goes beyond just the security aspect, right? I mean, as it's patrolling, there's analytics in there that can detect water or spills or open doors, or I'm sure there's a myriad of other things. But I mean, just beyond the simple person detection or patrolling, looking for people, there's some other capabilities that exist here as well.
Yeah, there are. We pride ourselves on there's three different things that we do. It's safety, security, and maintenance. The safety side of it, we do have the ability to tell you that there's liquid on floors. So you could have either leaky pipe, leaky ceiling, a spill, whatever the case might be. But depending on your environment, that has more severity than others. And if you're in warehouse environments, moving forklifts around and people, you obviously don't want that happening, but that's something we can let people know to go clean up at that time. We also have the
Mhm.
ability to tell people if they're through the use of our AI engine and our own analytics, that a fire extinguisher, an AD machine might be missing from where they were before. And that's all life safety equipment that's there for a reason. And if
Hmm.
that's growing legs and disappearing, people should know about that as well. We can tell you whether you have a person in an environment, but we can also tell you if they're on the ground. So we have person state versus just regular person. So you know that you may need to respond to something a little bit differently than you would otherwise. So yeah, and then last but not least, we have the ability to tell you that there's obstructions in front of a doorway. So if there are emergency exits that have boxes or pallets or things that are in front of them, we can let you know that. So you get those out of the way, so those emergency exits are clear for the people that may need to use them, and hopefully they never do.
Nice. So, tell me a little bit about the ideal application for this. I mean, I'm sure you probably have typical or target customers. Where does this application really shine currently?
It started off really in office spaces, and it started off with tech companies. So the tech companies don't necessarily want a lot of video surveillance cameras everywhere because they work on sensitive things for all kinds of different customers.
Sure.
Oh, and that kind of bled over into like, well, our guards, they're good, but we don't necessarily need them to be around. We just need to know when they need to be up there. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, in essence, they augmented the guard force by using the technology in order to tell the guards when it was that they needed to respond to something.
Yep.
So, it's kind of interesting. It starts there, but we've done anything from warehouses to self storage units. We've have we're in the process of getting some things rolling with higher education that just wants to secure like a library after hours.
Okay.
We've been in the space working with folks in retail, like where you have shopping centers or,
Hmm.
things like that. And there's always a common denominator at the end of the day. And it's everybody's trying to figure out how to take their security budget, which we all know we wish was more, but it's not. It is what it
Right.
is. But how do you make that go further? And whether that's augmenting people and just, rethinking your guard force to have more technology and maybe one or two less people at a particular time of the day, or you have a robust environment where it is you know you can't afford to deploy cameras because of the cost of infrastructure and labor, and actually getting them deployed is more expensive than having then it actually makes sense for that particular environment. So then they look for something that essentially is like what we have, which is a flying camera. It
Right.
allows us to cover a lot of that ground where traditional deployments and infrastructure may be cost prohibitive due to just sheer economic conditions a company might be experiencing, or you know uh, just trying to cover or balancing the value of what you're trying to cover in those different environments. So we really have done anything, as I said, from office spaces to warehouse distribution centers, higher education, even talk to folks in the medical world, and then as in the property management. So it really runs the gambit. But at the end of the day, everybody's trying to figure out how to do the most with what they have, and we allow them to augment not only their guard forces but their electronic security infrastructure with a device that can cover a lot of ground very quickly and deliver visual information of what it is they care about.
Yeah, no, well said. And I agree. I mean, both you and I have kind of been in this remote guarding video verification world for a while. And us being in the physical side and the security guard side of things, and also the technology and kind of remote guarding thing, people will often ask that or get confused. Are you selling one or the other? And I'm sure you get that a lot too. Is it replacing the guard? Is it augmenting? And a lot of times it's that exact piece of efficiency of, let's let the technology do the hard work of letting us know where the needle in the haystack is, but we still have that kind of last mile problem where you still need a response, or you still need something. So these technology tools that we have are just making our program more efficient and being able to stretch that budget farther and do more with less, type of thing. So I totally agree. I think the layered approach and the how do we either augment these officers and give them technology to do their job better, I think is the name of the game, and where we're seeing success with it as well.
Absolutely. It's funny because some folks have come around and said, "Well, what do you just suggest to get rid of all the humans?" I'm like, "No, you're never going to get rid of all the humans." But I
Right.
think we've seen trends in society right now where the more we tend to need more and more security as our nation keeps growing. Our
Hmm.
dynamics between law enforcement and you know uh, the security industry change. Based upon whether or not a department's fully staffed in a certain area, and you just need more eyes. We can provide that in order to help out that existing guard force that works in conjunction with that local law enforcement entity to make sure that we're not wasting their time either through true verification of different events that actually need the attention. So in essence, like, to your point, we've been around the video verification space for years, over a decade,
Right.
and it slowly but surely becomes more and more prevalent as we continue to move on, and within our industry and then in society in general, like those tools are necessary, and our technology is finally catching up to be able to do it more effectively, which ultimately helps out everybody.
Yeah, no, well said, and I totally agree. One other piece that I wanted to chat about a little bit, and I think it's relevant on a couple pieces, is country of origin. With everything that's going on with DJI and Chinese-made drones, and there's a lot of talk on that. Um, where is indoor robotics made, and where is their country of origin?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we are an Israeli tech startup. Everybody's headquartered out of Tel Aviv, and that's where our brain trust is, if you will. All the R&D development, actual manufacturing of our Tando product is there. So yeah, that's the crux of where we all come from, as far as an entity. And for us too, as we go forth building out our portfolio of third party partners that get integrated into our software, we're
Mm-hmm.
looking for some of the same things as well. So even the company that we work with currently, that just gives us another hardware option on the drone side to just cover some different areas in different ways, is based out of Silicon Valley, California. So they're NDA compliant. They actually do a tremendous amount in the outdoor space with anything from law enforcement, government, military, things of that nature. But we plan to keep that same blueprint for partnership as we look to bring on other people as well. Because, from my background, where I came from doing video surveillance, like the NDAA component, understanding what those technologies can do, how they can share information, and how that can be detrimental to end users and ultimately like communities and society and everything else, is very important. And we want to make sure that when we're out here working with partners and keep developing our software and hardware solutions, that we're developing cyber secure, cyber safe product that's ultimately going to be net positive altogether for everybody, rather than give them any kind of vulnerabilities that could be catastrophic at some point.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a big deal right now, and I think becoming a bigger deal. And potentially how things shake out over the next couple of years. It'll be interesting to see. But that's hitting not only the security world, but the consumer. You hear about TikTok and drones and everything else. It's definitely a talking point, and a bit more sensitive in the security space, I suppose. But the other aspect of that, which I found interesting, was being a real Israeli based. How has the war and the conflict over there? It's been obviously busy. Has that been disruptive, or anything that has come up through that engagement of note?
No, it's created challenges that were unforeseen for sure.
Uh-huh.
But our organization is very tight knit. Everybody's got each other's backs, and everybody works really hard for one another. There's a lot of shared blood, sweat, and tears. So when
Mm.
people have been called to do what's necessary for the nation of Israel, they've been able to go and do it. They've been able to go and do it effectively, and then return to us, and come back and be part of the team and pick up where they left off. So
Oh,
I'm not going to say it's been the easiest thing in the world to deal with, but
sure.
with a group like ours, they've made it to where I think we've handled it as best we possibly could.
Nice. And
Yeah.
when you say challenges, is that supply chain? I mean, has any of that come up where it's been a challenge getting product, or is the product made there in Israel?
It's made there in Israel, and in fact, like the supply chain side of it hasn't been an issue at all.
Oh,
It's
good.
more about personnel rotating in and out of their duties with Israeli Defense Forces, Israeli Air Forces, things like that,
Yeah.
just to support the mission.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough gig, and I know there's a
Yep.
lot going on over there. So certainly feel everybody's pain, and that's a tough one to go through. Hopefully, it's over sooner than later. But no, it's good to hear that. And I brought it up only by I thought the relevancy with the NDAA and all that other stuff going on.
Oh
I
yeah.
just wanted to clarify you all were.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. Sometimes people make the assumption when they see some new technologies like this that, everything just comes out of China, and that's not the case. There's still parts of the world that are developing wonderful things that can help out in our industry and in other areas too. So
Yeah.
yeah, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing, and frankly, we need more of it. And the more and more investment we can get, even in whether it's startups in North America or startups in Europe or
Right.
the Middle East or what have you, we need it all. all over the
It's
place.
it's a problem. There's no doubt. I mean, the whole DJI thing is they make such a good product, and it's so far advanced. And from a cost standpoint, it's a challenge. They've got to, if it's going to end up being banned or not being able to be used, we've got to have a viable alternative that meets the same price point and same feature sets that are out there. And I would agree. We're going to have to get more aggressive with that
Yeah,
if we're going to stay ahead of the game.
I would agree, and I think like one of the things that'll be beneficial is like DJI as a consumer product has had a huge head start. So
Yeah.
the sheer economics of production help.
Sure.
The more and
Yeah.
more we have other manufacturers that get to the volume of production, we should hopefully see the prices come down and be a little bit more competitive in different areas. But there's also a price to pay for being on a device that is secure. Is reassuredly built in a
Right.
country that's it's very very um, well, can't be advantageous at different times. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those conditions I think that'll help the overall marketplace for drones as we continue to mature.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Well, no, I appreciate you coming on today, and I
Yeah,
have always enjoyed the product and the concept, and I know we're working on a couple things, and we'll
absolutely.
continue to do so. So I really enjoy chatting with you and learning a little bit more about the product, and especially thank you for coming on today. We will uh, put your LinkedIn and also link to the website and have some resources in the description below. And if anybody has any questions out there, certainly feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to help. But Ben, I can't tell you thanks enough for coming on today and sharing some of the insights there, and certainly look forward to working with you further.
Absolutely, truly great. I truly appreciate the opportunity, and I know, and hopefully, won't be the last. I mean, we'll have lots of innovations and cool stuff coming in the years to come, and that's the fun part about this technology is once you get started in it, everything should go the right direction, and just give us more options as the future goes on.
I agree. You're always welcome. Come back. We love looking at the latest and greatest and talking about drones and technology and insecurity. So yeah, no, really appreciate it, and thanks again.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Talk to you later.